Peace and love, family. This is Cortland Kalaniel, and today on I Self Law and Master, we're going to be talking about injunctions and why they're very, very, very important. And I think once people realize how much power we truly have and what we truly hold, they'll see how we can really live the lives that we truly want to. But when we're living under the lives and under the corporation of somebody else and living under somebody else's idea and somebody else's creation, we really don't have any control. We only have the privileges that they give us. And today we're going to talk about the power of injunctions and what exactly they are and how you can empower yourself and protect yourself with these injunctions. So first, let's start off with what is an injunction. Let's get a proper definition. If you all know how I like to teach, I like to go straight to the books, and we can see what they say about it. So, an injunction. An injunction is an authoritative warning or order, a judicial order that restrains a person from beginning or continuing an action threatening or invading the legal rights of another, or that compels a person to carry out a certain act to make a restitution to an injured party. That's very important that we understand what an injunction is, because basically, like it says, it's like a restraining order. And what we're going to be doing today with these injunctions is basically putting out a restraining order on public officials and corporate officers who ever offend your estate, whoever trespass your property, whether that's you in the physical, whether that's your property, your land, anything like that that's connected to you or that's a part of your estate. If anybody trespasses that, you can hold them accountable for that with these injunctions. And that's what the power is. So let's start from the beginning first so that we properly understand what's going on. And I would like to start with that this is all a trust, and it goes all the way back to 1666. It's funny, 1 + 6 + 6 + 6. That's actually what? 19, 1 + 9 = 10, 0 down, you get 1. You understand? It's the year of the one, and this is when it all started for them, 1666. Y'all realize we're in 2017, 2 + 0 + 1 + 7. That also equals what? 10, 0 down, you get 1. Same thing, we're in the year of the one. You understand there's a lot of mystical things going on. There's a reason why this is happening. But anyway, backtrack. So in 1666, during the Black Plague and the Great Fires of London, Parliament enacted an act behind closed doors called the Cestui Act of 1666. The act being debated was to subrogate the rights of men and women, meaning all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea. That meant they were now operating under Admiralty law, maritime law. And the state of London took custody of Aboriginal territories worldwide and converted them into what we would call today as legal states, and took their property and put it into a trust and something called the Cestui Trust. The state became the trustee, holding all the titles to the people in the property until a living man comes back to reclaim those titles as the trustee and reclaim back his estate, okay? And reclaims back his control and acting as a private citizen. And this is what everybody has the right to, no matter if you're Aboriginal, it doesn't matter if you're a state citizen. Everybody has the right to operate in their private status. So now that we know that all of these lands and territories around the world were converted and changed to states that were all tied into this Cestui Trust Act under the Vatican, it's important that we must understand that everybody is truly under the rule and the control of the Vatican and his rules and his regulations. Once we understand that, we can know what's going on around us and how we need to move in order to be free, shall I say. So basically, if you're operating under the public, that's something called the state. It's important to know that we have two different governments here operating in the United States. And in every single state, they have two governments as well. And we must know that they have the United States of America, the Republic, and they also have the United States Incorporated, which is a corporation, public and the private, human members of a corporation. I don't even want to say humans because definition, that's not even right. I want to say a living soul, and we have members. So before we even move along there, before we even break down deeper of the public and the private, first let's talk about, so we can get a proper understanding of the public. Let's take Apple, for instance. If you work at Apple and you sign a a contract to work for them and you become an employee. Now you're subject to whatever, corporate, I guess, rules or regulations that they have. If they say you can't wear blue jeans on Friday with a red hat, you can't do it. That's what they tell you, and you can't do it. If you do, you can get fined or you can get fired. That's how they do. They have control because you're an employee of their corporation. I could be a free man. I could just be somebody who's walking by the Apple store, whoop, whoop, whoop. There's no way they can tell me I can't wear jeans on Friday with a red hat because I'm a free man. I don't work for your company. I'm not an employee. You see, because I'm not a subject to their laws or their statutes or their corporation. We can understand that in business every day when it comes to Apple. Can an Apple employee just walk out the store and tell you what to do? So my question is, why do we sit here and let a corporation called the United States Incorporated do the same thing to you? Because that's the thing. We all have a decision, and we don't have to operate as a public citizen and say we are a member or an employee to this corporation. But you all were born into this system with one. That's what your social is. And of course, that's what these employee identification numbers are. And now it's time to operate from the private side, because being in the public means you're under control of a corporation. And now you should be tired of wearing those blue shoes and red hats whenever they tell you to, right? Because you are grown. You're not an infant anymore. Grow up and make grown decisions. So first, let's talk about the private side and what they have. See, the private side, we're generals. I like to say that. We operate under something called general law, right? So we can understand. General law is a law that is unrestricted as to time, as applicable throughout the entire territory, subject to the power of the legislator that enacted it, and applies to all persons in the same class. Look, key word in that, it's applicable throughout the entire territory, right? And if we understand that, we know that every single state is a territory, and then they also have that corporation that's there. See, that's the difference. See, the territory is for the private. That's the natural. And then you also have, the public, and, that's for the corporation and different things like that. Well, we have the land. But anyway, the general laws is applicable throughout the entire territory. It applies for everybody. It doesn't matter what color or how tall or how big. None of that matters. It's for everybody. Now then we have something called special laws. And see, this is for the public side. And you see, if you remember when you were in school, they used to treat special people different. In the classrooms, they gave them certain assistance. They gave them certain benefits. That's how it is here in the government, too. That's how they see they got to take care of you as an infant, as a child, because you're not, I guess, in the know enough to take care of yourself as a grown human being. So they feel like they got to do it for you. So that's what the public is about, because publicly they're taking care of all of you. So you all are under special laws, and they treat special people different. So let's talk about special law. That applies to a particular place, or especially to a particular member or members of a class, or persons or things in a situation, but not to the entire class. Okay? You understand that? Not to the entire class, and that is unconstitutional if the classification is made arbitrary or without reasonable or legitimate justification or basis. Do we understand that? It doesn't apply to everybody, just a particular member or members, right? You see, once we understand that, then maybe we'll stop acting as those particular members and go over to the other side where it applies to everybody in the territory, where they got to see you as a man or a woman, as a living soul, as a living spirit. But see, when you acting as a member, they can treat you however they want to. It's going to be blue jeans on Friday and no red hats on Thursday because they tell you so. You see, and we got to get out of that. So we understand that there's two different laws here that's operating: general. And if you want to be a general of your life, you'll take control and move on the private side, right? And if you are operating under the public laws, then you're operating under the special laws, because they feel like you're special and they got to treat you that way, So if you're tired of being treated special, then I guess you're going to go ahead and get ready to listen up about this injunction and see how we can go ahead and change your life and go ahead and put people on notice and let the sheriff know, yo, I'm in the know. I know who I am, and I'm letting you know, yo, I'm to be treated as a human, as a living spirit protected under the state constitution. See, that's the trip I want to talk about real quick. The state constitution protects everybody. if you know how to be in the right status. You see, it doesn't protect 14th Amendment shadow citizens that are operating in the public. You see, because those are members of the corporation. They're not talking about y'all in the Constitution. In the Constitution, they talking about the natural. They talking about the living souls, the humans, the people who acting as generals of their life. They're not talking about the special people, you know. And the state here tells you that they protect every single living soul. But let's go to Georgia. I believe it's 1876, Georgia Constitution. And Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, Section 1, it says, all government of right originates with the people. It's founded upon their will only, and it's instituted solely for the good of the whole. Now listen to this next part. It's very important. Public officers are the trustees and the servants of the people, and at all times amenable to them. Do we understand? It just told you in their state constitution who they are. When you get a social security card and you're born into the system, that social security card represents your trust, right? Your cestui trust. Like I said, everybody is born into this system and everybody gets their own personal trust, and that represents that cestui. So now that we understand that, then we know why this corporation has said that they're trustees, because they're here to serve us. That's who these public officials are, because your straw man name, shall I say, your name, your in legis, in all cap represents your executor. Okay, the 3 points, it represents the top. That's your executor. And then of this cestui trust, the government represents the trustees, right? But on the end of the day, they're all here for your benefit as the beneficiary. It's the 3 points. You, the beneficiary, as the living soul, they work for you. They're trustees for you. They're servants for you. Once we understand that, we can start acting as, I would like to say, the gods that we are, because we have the power and the control over our own lives to create whatever we want. Now, if we want to create, I guess if we want to create bondage because we won't operate privately like we're supposed to, then that's a personal choice. But some of us would choose to rather operate on the private side, like as a generals we are. All right, now moving on to the document. Let's first understand that this restraining order, shall I say, or this notice, more proper words to use, is going to be sent to 4 key places. We're putting 4 key places on notice that we're now operating as nationals and as private people, you know, in our sovereign state. And these 4 people are going to be your sheriff, your state comptroller, they're going to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and it's also going to be the governor, of course. And you're also going to send it to the state governor. Very, 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 very important. Those 4 places, you got to put these 4 people on notice and let them know that you are now operating this way, because they're going to actually put you on something called a do not search and detain list for this state. And it's supposed to be an international one, but, you know, just being better safe than sorry, I would like to put one on notice in every single state that I ever go to. You know, I'm not ever going to go anywhere and not put someone on proper notice. I mean, that's just the way of a gentleman. They say they always put someone on proper notice. This is an injunction that was specifically designed for Texas. And if you do contact us, we can make an injunction for you specifically for $50. And, you know, we can do that. We'll customize it just for your state. And if we don't have it, we'll make it. And like I say, it's anything for you guys. All right. We're going to start from the top and let's go through the paperwork. You know, this first injunction here, and this is for Texas specifically. Okay, here we go. In 1876, the Texas Constitution, as ratified without subsequent amendments, Article 1, Bill of Rights, Section 24, the military at all times shall be subordinate to the civil authority. First, before we even move forward, let's understand what that means. That's letting them know that, yo, as a natural man operating in the private status, as a true United States of America and Republic citizens, the private side, you have all right to call up the military if somebody infringes on your natural rights, especially over something corporate and commercial, because they can't do that as a general. Remember, you're a general now. They can't just run up in your house and just kick your door down, because see, generals don't roll like that. You feel me? So when you're acting special, again, we're going to keep going back and forth between that special and general, because that's important that you remember that. So anyway, we have power and we can call the military for our affairs if we need to. Long story short, moving along. Notice of special. This is a notice of special restricted appearance. John Doe L., the beneficial owner, first lien holder of the estate, all name caps. John Doe L., doing business as John Doe L. It's very, very, very important that we know that this is the sovereign man, that is the lien holder, taking control of the estate. That's his property now. You know, once we understand that, let's understand that. Let's get to the depths of that. Once we understand that we're the lien holders as the living spirit and the private of the public straw man, then anybody who infringes on any of that public straw man or any property of, and you can charge them for that from the private side, because you're in control of the straw man. So if anybody touches your physical body, that too is connected to your straw man, and you can charge them for that. They handcuff you, they hit you, they abuse you, anything like that from these public officers, you can charge them for that. You can put a lien on them, but we'll talk about that later. And moving along, you have the public officer, DBA. Like I said, you're always going to put, you know, the head person, the sheriff, the county. This is where you put one of those 4 people that I told you about, right? This is where you put those 4 names, no matter if it's the public officer, the sheriff, no matter if it's the governor's name or the comptroller or the chief justice supreme. That's where you put the name at right there. So, all right, good. Moving along. A notice of estoppel and stipulation of constitutional challenge to all Texas state statutes where no general law affecting private rights shall be varied at any particular case by special legislation, except with the free consent and writing to all persons to be affected thereby, and motion to intervene with an injunction for the name John Doe L., or whoever's name you're going to have there. And notice that John Doe L., doing business as John Doe L., registered agent for the entity, is upon whom a notice of claim against the public corporation may be served. This is basically just letting them know that we're serving them. We're putting them on notice. This is a public notice, and we're sending this registered mail, and we're letting them know that, yo, okay, look, we've registered this with the United States. This is public. It's on record. And if you don't reply back, again, contract is law. After 3 days, according to the Truth and Lending Gap, it is what it is. So moving along, they have to abide by the contract. Contract is important. That's very important that we also remember that too. If you know anything about business, you can't do any real business without a contract. And these people have been doing business with your life, your entire life. So it's about time you write a contract to protect you, and write a contract that's actually for your benefit, right? So this is that contract, that injunction. This is for your benefit now. And they already know they can't violate your rights, so they're going to have to let you write your contract and be you, because everybody has the right to be free. Okay, so anyway, moving along. Notice that it says, take notice pursuant to the 1876 Texas Constitution. They go all the way back now. Because again, this is when it was ratified. This is when it was first changed. You know, all this other stuff that they done added, code, statutes, that don't matter now. We're talking about what's real and what's natural, what was originally put in place here. You know, so we got that second state constitution there in 1876 that was ratified and made. And that's the one that we're actually operating and moving under. And as you see here, it says in 1876, the Texas Constitutional Article 3, Section 56, the legislature shall not, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, pass any local or special laws authorizing affecting the estates of minors or persons under disability. Now, it's very important that we understand that on this next part, it gets real deep. And it says, laws of general nature shall have uniform operation throughout the state, and no special law shall be enacted in any case for which provision has been made by existing general law. No general law affecting private rights shall be varied in any particular case by special legislation, except with the free consent and writing of all persons to be affected thereby, and no person under legal disability to contract of such consent. Do we understand what just happened? Do we know what they just said right there? Okay, it says laws of general nature shall have uniform throughout the state, and no special laws shall be enacted to actually affect them. You see, now that's the thing. They can't detain you and arrest you and all these different things for their codes and statutes, because those aren't real when we operate and understand that we are private citizens. But when you are still members of the public corporation, you gotta follow somebody else's rules. You're not a general of your life. So that's what that is. And this is what this document is. And I'm not going to get too deep into it. I could read there's no reason. I mean, we all have eyes, and I would rather you read it so you can actually get the understanding and you can get the depths. I'm just trying to point out the key parts to you so you get it, the importance and the power of this. Now, every part on here, we see we've pulled out certain parts of the Constitution so that we could put them on notice to make sure that they don't forget. So we put this in here and let them know. We got certain articles, certain provisions that you see in as you see Article 1, Section 28. It says no power of suspending laws in this state shall be exercised except for by the legislator. So that means, they can't change these general laws, and they can't do anything like that unless it was changed by the legislator, unless it was something that was truly organic and real. That's not going to happen, people. Let's be honest, man. That's what these codes and statutes are for. That's for the special. They can't mess with the general. That's real. So let's move along. Okay, you have different articles, different sections here. Interesting. And basically just this injunction in this paper here is putting them on notice. Now, if we look down here, it also has the part about the constitutional rights and different things like that, where it says, and take further notice that the material facts giving rise to the constitutional questions are as follows. Inalienable rights protected by the 1876 Texas Constitution and the 1876 Bill of Rights, Section 19. No citizen of this state shall be deprived of life, liberty, property, privileges, or immunity, or in any manner disenfranchised, except by the due course of the law of the land. Right of travel, and notice I say on here, my right of travel has been violated in the past, and we're letting them know, we're putting them on notice. If you see that, we got to make sure we put that in there, because we got to let them know, yo, I'm operating in the private now, and I have been violated before, but I'm letting you know I don't want it to ever happen again, because if so, I'm going to have to because now I have all right, because it's a contract. So anyway, just notice how they pointed out key parts. We took out key parts here in the Constitution where it says, everybody has life, the ability to life, liberty, rights, and all of that. And that's important that we remember that, because every single state constitution has something along the same lines and the same wording. And it's important because we can pull that out and we can use that in these injunctions. And it's like we have to basically use the Constitution as a remembering tool for them to say, yo, do not do this to me, because according to this state constitutional section right here, you literally got to break down the Constitution. And you got to put this in an injunction and serve it to them and let them know, yo, you have to abide by the rules that were set up by this Constitution, by our forefathers. Well, at least theirs. So it's important that we understand and remember that. Moving along. So basically you sign it, go to the notary, get a notary to sign it, put your name. Like I say, you're going to get it signed and send it to all four of those people there. It's very important, because those people there are in control, the main people that are in control of your trust and your accounts, and basically can't nothing really move or go down with you unless it goes down through those people first. You understand? So the sheriff is always going to be the big dog on campus, and the big dog with all his constables and all of that, because they all work for him. But we must understand that he works for us. And that's because we're operating under the general laws. So just to do a recap of everything, I'm not going to make it long. Again, this was a short lesson. It was real brief and real sweet. But we must learn and start operating under the general laws. We must take control and be generals of our lives. We cannot be operating as special people. Special people have to operate publicly under special laws. It's very important. Public, private, private. And it's a journey that you're going to have to go through, because this is just the beginning. of the private life. You've been living in the public your entire life. So a lot of things you're going to have to question. Is this legal? Is this? I'm going to make it real easy for you. If you haven't infringed on anybody's natural human rights, then you have all rights to do it in your private as a natural human being. That's universal law. Now, when you're talking about codes and statutes and who said you can do this and how you can do it, that's different. Those are special laws. But from now on, and now when you're riding and you're living with I, self, law, and master, you're going to be a general of your life. And that's what we do, and that's who we are. We are generals of our lives, and together we're gonna take control of the world, man. It's time. It's time for a new wave and a new energy of light to go ahead and bring that peace, love, and respect and all that happiness back. And we have to do it first by knowing thyself and knowing how to move within this system. Let's become Neo. Let's jump in and out when we need to so that we can come back and help our people. That's my time. And always remember that the pen is mightier than the sword. I, self, law, and master. Rock with us.